Good evening. This is one of our first night shoots. This is another tactical technician video brought to you from Diagnation. And we're going to be dealing with 8 channels, and we're going to explain each channel and the situation in the case study. This involved a 2007 Honda Civic that came to me that seemed to misfire when I put it in reverse. I put it in reverse and I heard the chugga, and then I put it back into drive, and it didn't seem to misfire. I didn't see any codes on the computer. I guess maybe I didn't run it long enough, but nonetheless, it to me felt like maybe a motor mount, or basically a cylinder was going down due to lack of fuel or spark. I didn't think engine mechanical would cause a misfire only in reverse. It's just the way the engine was twisting when the engine was loaded. So basically, I'm going to give you a schematic, and you're going to take a snapshot of this right here. I'm going to give you the whole thing. It's 8 channels. I'll put it right in front of you. Take a screenshot of that, and slowly just you can stop the video, pause the video, and then take a screenshot, and I will explain each channel. So, okay, now hopefully you got your screenshot, and as you look at your screenshot, you're going to see we're on 8 channels. Channel A is we are current ramping all of the fuel injectors. Channel B, we're current ramping all of the ignition coils. Channel C is ignition trigger signal from ignition coil 1. That's the triggered signal. Channel D is a FLS in the tailpipe. Channel E, purple, is the injectors for injector 1. Channel F, gray, is injector 2. Channel orange is injector 3, and channel H, burgundy, is injector 4. This is the Pico 4823. We are attenuated on channels E, F, G, and H. Of course, when we deal with injectors, because the flyback voltage will definitely go higher than 50. As you also look at your schematic, on the right side of the schematic, I'll show you again, right here, I wanted to see, make it real clear, because when we look at the scope colors, we got a little color clash. We got injector 1 is purple, injector 2 is gray, injector 3 orange, and injector 4 burgundy. So you can refer to that occasionally as you're looking at the scope patterns to disseminate each of the signals. Basically, what we have here is the scope cache. We have 12 screens here. Right now we're idling normal, and we'll kind of take each signal at one at a time. First of all, blue is our injector coil, sequentially firing a fuel injection. Red is our ignition coils. You can see them right here. We'll kind of zoom in. Blue is the injection, red and ignition. That is channel blue, and then channel red. Channel C, green, is ignition trigger for 1. You see this in other videos. Basically, we have like a 4 or 5 volt clip here. That's the trigger from the PCM to the number 1 ignition coil. Channel 4, black, is the FLS in the tailpipe. We are anomaly free right here. You can see that right here. We don't see any misfires. That is in the tailpipe. That is the delta sensor. Channel F, channel E, F, G, and H are the fuel injectors 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right down here, you can actually see we've got color issues. It is a little tough. Maybe I'll thicken the line up to help us out here, and we got a little thicker line, and that may help things. I'll go to colors, and I want to go to a thick line for better visuality. Okay, now that is orange, that is gray, that is purple. That is burgundy. Burgundy, that is gray, that is purple, and that is orange. Okay, so we know that we were firing 1, 3, 42. That's our firing order. So let's go down to here, and we fire here. We start with 1 purple, 1, 3, 4, 2. So we got 1 purple, 3 orange, 1, 3, 4 burgundy, and 2 gray. So anyway, let's get back to the capture where the vehicle starts to become symptomatic. Here we go down the line, and I see some action right here. As I get into it, I put the car in reverse, we start to see something here. Here we start to see a little bit of weirdness going on. Take a look at this. You see that the coils are starting to look a little funny, especially the ignition coil, the injection, the fuel injectors. There's a lot of hash on green, and there's a lot of hash on purple on the injection. Let's get green out of there and take a look at our injection. And I'm about ready to yell, but here we go. We'll keep going. All right. Basically, we have a lot of electrical bleed over going on, and the worst culprit is injector 1. And you can see the purple there, but there's a lot of bleed over. But so far, no misfires. And here we go. We start to see some funniness about right here. Let's kind of look and key in on here. Okay, we see our injection firing. This is 2, so we got 1, 3, 4, 2, 1 purple, 3. Let's get a little wider. Okay, 1, 3, 4, 2. This guy's kind of an interloper. That shouldn't be there. That's injector 1, and that's doing something weird. That wire's doing something weird, and we can also verify that by looking at the coil, looking at its current. Because remember, the current clamp sees everything, and you can see it sort of corroborates here. You see action on the current ramp and the injector. That's not controlled. That's not designed by the PCM to do that. That's weirdness. That's broke. Something's broke there. But although we don't see a misfire as we continue down the line, but it's something to be mindful of. It's starting to get worse. So that's number 1 injector trigger happening at the wrong time in the wrong place, and then things get really weird here. We can see the number 1 injector the purple guy start to get a little crazy. It's starting to flutter. It's like it's starting to dance to ground. Something is intermittently pulling that injector signal to ground. So we got to think about wiring. We see right here again it does something not normal. It's out of sync again. That's that purple injector that shouldn't be there. It actually should be here because we're 1, 3, 4, 2, and 1 is sort of misplaced there. It's getting out of line, and then right now we start to see some misfiring. So this problem is getting worse and worse, and right here we see that the number 1 injector again is going to ground way too long. And let's see how long that pulse width is, basically for that number 1 injector, when it really starts to go to ground too long. Okay, about right here. Okay, between here and here, that is really long. That's 26 milliseconds, and the car's warmed up. That's way too much. That can even hydro-lock an engine. You got to be, so you can see the purple, the intermittent laying down. That circuit's laying down intermittently, and that's not designed to do that. So you also have fuel going in from 2 different injectors at the same time, because orange injector and the purple one here are kind of spraying at the same time. That shouldn't be. So that's going to overfuel the engine to the point where we get so much fuel that we start to misfire. Now let's see, since our purple injector is misbehaving the worst, let's see if the tailpipe corroborates with that. Let's see where our misfire is on the tailpipe. We're going to use our ignition trigger to do a fire cycle. We're down here. We got 720 degrees of crank rotation. We'll get rid of this. Let's go here, and this is 720. And I've showed this in other videos. Basically, I'm going to read a fire cycle, and I'm going to put 4 partitions between the fire cycle. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here's cylinder 1 right here, pretty much a TDC. Here's 180, here's 1, which is about bottom dead center. So here's the exhaust strike for 1. That tells us the anomaly strike is the misfiring cylinder. That's where 1 would be. Its exhaust valve has opened about right here, and then we see, so that would definitely tell us that cylinder 1 is probably misfiring due to overfueling from that long injector pulse width. So as we continue down the line, it gets a little worse. We start to see more here. It's very similar. Again, it looks like injector one, the purple guy's misbehaving. There may be some bleed over into ignition also. Take a look at that. Take a look at, the fuel is worse, but nonetheless, you can see some action on green that's bleeding over to the ignition 1 trigger, which is right here, but there's something that shouldn't be on that circuit because the other 3 cylinders have to ignite sequentially, but it's picking up something there. So this is probably an area where we got some wiring that's an issue. But here's that number 1 acting up again. Injector 1, you can see that there. You can see the long pulse width. I won't measure. That was about 26 milliseconds last time, and we're getting a lot of overfueling, and eventually it leads to another misfire right here. And of course, that cylinder, I can just look at it, I can tell that's cylinder 1 misfiring. So as we go down the line, this is where it starts to get worse. Right here, take a look at this. This is where I start to smell fuel. I thought I blew a fuel line. It was so pungent. I think I might have shut the car off and then started to shake some wiring. But nonetheless, take a look at this right here. This is really pretty evident that cylinder 1 is just laying right down. The control of cylinder 1 is going to ground, because you can see purple right here, and it's all low. It's all like a very long pulse width. You can see this just pulling right down here, and basically it's about 1.6 volts. That's almost as if like a driver in a computer would be closing that, but that's not intentional. That's something's up with that. Also, look at the current flowing through all of the injectors, where 1 is consistently staying on, and the other 3 are doing their sequential thing. So, you know, it's sort of on top of the 1 is the other 3 injectors sequentially. So, as we look at that, a good way to tell that, as we run each injector up, it's got a sort of a blue mate. Let's take a look at that. I'll sort of clear that out. If you ever have a situation like this, to know which injector is causing it, we'll go here. We got burgundy, which is injector 4. It has a blue mate right here. We have the gray guy, which is injector 1342. Okay, let's see. We got. I'm getting a little confused with these injectors. Okay, but nonetheless, gray to blue, burgundy to blue, and orange to blue. But purple doesn't have a spot because it's on constantly. So you see that? See the purple going up? Because basically that's this thing all here. That is the entire length of purple. So let's keep going down the line and see if we get anything else. Nonetheless, here we got the situation where let's look at, make sure it's probably cylinder 1 again. Obviously it is. If we go here about 180 here, here's the strike for 1. We know 1 is the misfiring cylinder. And let's keep going, and then we get something else happens here where we start to see something else. We look and we can see that it's actually another injector is acting up, and that would be injector, let me go back to my schematic. Okay, that would be injector 2. That's the gray injector. Keep your eyes on your schematic. If you ever have to resort to anything, don't feel afraid to stop the video and look. It is a lot of data at once. So basically, we're looking at injector. Injector 2 is laying down when it shouldn't, and let's kind of verify that with the tailpipe. We want to see this thing. Okay, there's a fire cycle, and there's a fire cycle here. So we got here to here, and we'll bring the tailpipe down, and we're going to see. We're going to go to here. We'll go from here to here, and this is green. Actually, this is still injector 1, and when we pull our tailpipe transducer waveform down, we know that here's the strike for 1. Okay, because here's the 180. It's exhaust valve. 1's exhaust valve opens about right here. Here's the strike for 1, 1, 3, 4. And it looks like our misfiring cylinder is going to be 2, which makes sense. So that's right here. That would be 2, which is the gray injector, which is making a lot of sense because the gray injector is the one that's laying down. And let's get a clear thing of that right here. You can see the, right here, here's where it's starting to lay down and ground all the time, and hence that's its number 2 misfire. So the other three, let's see how purple is starting to behave normally now. Yeah, the purple guy's back in line behaving normally, and it's got its blue mate right here. See that? You see the purple as its blue mate, where orange has its mate and burgundy has its mate, but the gray guy right around here is causing this high rise in the blue, just like purple did initially. So we've got a bunch of wiring that's probably screwed up. Basically, what I'll tell you what happened is when we finally get out of this strange trip, we're back to normal. So we got through all this. Basically, we had the wiring harness pretty close to the firewall. Somebody had sprayed some chemical in there, and it got into the under the. I couldn't see it overlooking the top of it. When I felt it from underneath and shook it, I got the car to really cough badly, and I noticed that the insulation on a bunch of the wiring was compromised. So I had to get in there and fix wiring and a lot of soldering, a lot of heat shrink, a lot of liquid tape, and some new conduit protection to fix the car to get it running on all 4 cylinders. But nonetheless, that's what was happening. A lot of wire bleed over to probably another wire or bleed over to ground. So nonetheless, thanks for watching. This is Technical Technician. Have a great evening.